While defending Israel during its 12-day war with Iran, the United States burned through billions of dollars worth of missiles, including about 150 THAADs. With the way the world is right now, the Pentagon wants to replace those missiles as fast as possible. So it's adding another $2 billion worth of THAADs to its tab with Lockheed Martin. The Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD missile, is one of the most advanced interceptors in the U.S. arsenal. THAAD launchers are integrated into layered missile defense systems, but THAADs are the heavy hitters, made to stop the largest and most lethal targets, regardless of whether they're endo- or exo-atmospheric, meaning THAADs can hit targets both inside and outside the Earth's atmosphere. During Iran's ballistic missile barrages on Israel, the United States fired more than 150 THAAD interceptors, which cost around $12 million apiece. According to the Wall Street Journal, the demand for THAADs in Israel was so high, Washington was considering diverting THAAD interceptors bought by Saudi Arabia and sending them to Israel instead. When the war ended and Iran stopped firing ballistic missiles, the urgency to send more THAADs to the Middle East may have dissipated, but the need to rearm remains. The Department of Defense just awarded Lockheed Martin an additional $2 billion for the purchase of more interceptors. The new order will be added to an existing order the DoD already had with Lockheed for more THAADs, bringing the total contract to $10.4 billion. Spending billions and billions of dollars for exquisite systems like THAAD interceptors isn't exactly sustainable, especially in an age where both state and non-state actors have access to cheap weaponry, which is why the DoD is in the midst of a months to years-long effort to field cheaper systems at scale, a topic we've reported on extensively here at Straight Arrow News.
Arab and Muslim states joined other world powers in signing a declaration calling for Hamas to relinquish power in the Gaza Strip and get rid of their weapons. The 22-member Arab League joined the entire European Union and 17 other countries in signing the declaration at a United Nations conference. Many saw the move as rare, but an associate professor of Middle Eastern politics we spoke with says Hamas is not looked upon favorably by many countries in the Middle East.
After the Arab Spring, any manifestation of a political Islamic organization, whether it was Hamas or its parent organization, the Muslim Brotherhood, was actually banned in many Arab states. They were officially declared a terrorist organization. They were viewed as sort of a destabilizing force in the politics of the region.
Hashimi says the document from the UN will have limited impact on what's actually going on in Gaza. He says the real impact could come inside those Arab countries, where everyday Arabs could see this as Arab states siding with Israel and the West. Some of those everyday Arabs look at Hamas differently than their own governments.
It's viewed by many people in the region as an organization that does engage in violence, sometimes grotesque violence, but it's also viewed in the region as an organization that is an anti-colonial resistance force fighting for self-determination. That's the view on the street in the Arab world.
The main focus of the UN document was on a two-state solution for Israelis and Palestinians. That's why the U.S. and Israel both boycotted the meeting and did not sign the document. A U.S. State Department spokesperson said, quote, "This is a publicity stunt that comes in the middle of delicate diplomatic efforts to end the conflict. Far from promoting peace, the conference will prolong the war, embolden Hamas, and reward its obstruction and undermine real-world efforts to achieve peace."
And U.S. President Donald Trump has described the situation in Gaza as terrible.
Well, speaking to reporters, Trump said that despite contributing $60 million for food aid in Gaza, he sees no results.
Oh, it's terrible what's occurring there, yeah. It's a terrible thing. People are very hungry. You know, the United States gave $60 million for food, and it's a shame because nobody, I don't see the results of it. And we gave it to people that, in theory, are watching over it fairly closely. We wanted Israel to watch over it. Part of the problem is Hamas is taking the money and they're taking the food.
Trump has sent his special envoy Steve Witkoff to Israel to discuss the disintegrating humanitarian situation in Gaza and a possible ceasefire. Images released by Israeli government press office showed Witkoff and Netanyahu shaking hands and sitting in for the meeting. This is the first meeting between Witkoff and Netanyahu since both Israel and the US called their negotiations teams back home from Qatar about a week ago.
Now, the meeting is taking place as Israel faces mounting international pressure over Gaza, with Canada, the latest Western power, to say that it will recognize a Palestinian state.
Now, Trump expressed his displeasure with France, the United Kingdom and Canada, announcing their plans to recognize a Palestinian state in September, saying that doing so is equivalent to rewarding Hamas.
The president expressed his displeasure and his disagreement with the leaders of France, the United Kingdom, and Canada. He feels as though that's rewarding Hamas at a time where Hamas is the true impediment to a ceasefire and to the release of all of the hostages.
Well, the situation on the ground remains dire, with Israeli offensive in Gaza continuing with heavy strikes hitting the Strip.
Now, German Foreign Minister called the humanitarian crisis in Gaza beyond imagination and unacceptable, adding that each day men, women and children are getting killed for food.
Im ganzen Gazastreifen leiden Menschen.
The humanitarian disaster in Gaza is beyond imagination. People throughout the Gaza Strip are suffering from hunger. Every day, women, men and children are killed in their desperate search for food. This is a completely unacceptable situation that must change immediately. That is why I emphasized to my discussion partners today that we need a fundamental improvement of the situation for the people in the Gaza Strip.
Für die Menschen im Gazastreifen.
On Friday, Madrid will airdrop 12 tons of food over the Gaza Strip using Spanish Air Force planes that have arrived in Jordan.
On the other hand, Slovenia has announced plans to ban all weapons trade with Israel over the war in Gaza, becoming the first European country to ban the import, export and the transit of weapons to and from Israel. Last year, its parliament passed a decree recognizing Palestinian statehood.
On Thursday, the armed wing of Palestinian militant group Islamic Jihad Al-Quds Brigade shared a video of a hostage who has been identified as Israeli-German Rom Brislavsky. He was abducted in October 2023.
Pressure is mounting on Netanyahu and his government as Israelis protest to demand the release of all hostages and a ceasefire. On Thursday, families of Israeli hostages held by Hamas staged a protest outside Netanyahu's office in Jerusalem, holding banners and photographs of hostages.
President Trump, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and Witkoff, please end this nightmare for all the Israeli people, end this nightmare for all the families that cannot live anymore, end this nightmare for the hostages in the tunnels, doesn't have food. Please help us to finish this.
Now, hundreds of demonstrators also staged a protest in Athens, calling an end to the conflict and more aid to be allowed into the enclave. US President Donald Trump lambasted Iran, saying that the country has been acting very badly and not speaking nicely. Well, the statement came as Tehran adopted a tougher stance and sets new conditions for restarting nuclear negotiations with the Trump administration.
Iran has been acting very badly. They were decimated. Their nuclear capability, that potential which could have happened within 3 or 4 weeks, was decimated.
Abbas Araghchi told the Financial Times that Iran would not agree to business as usual in the wake of the 12-day conflict with Israel, which the US briefly joined despite having been in talks with Iran. He urged US to explain why it attacked Iran in the middle of negotiations and sought assurance that it would not be repeated, while demanding compensation for losses that were done. Now, to put things in context, Iran and the US held 5 rounds of Oman-mediated indirect nuclear talks before Israel attacked the Islamic Republic, which effectively ended the negotiations, especially after Trump joined in striking Iran. Now, the report also quoted Araghchi as saying that he and US envoy for West Asia, Steve Witkoff, exchanged messages with each other during and since the war, with the Iranian official telling the American there that there needs to be a win-win situation to resolve the years-long standoff over Iran's nuclear program. He said the road to negotiations is narrow but not impossible. And in a fresh development, Israel has announced that it has targeted several sites in Lebanon said to be used by Hezbollah for manufacturing and storing missiles.
Now, these strikes come despite a ceasefire agreed upon last November. Israel's Defense Minister Israel Katz stated that among the targets was what he called Hezbollah's biggest precision missile manufacturing site. The Israeli military claims it also struck infrastructure linked to production and storage of weapons in both southern Lebanon and the eastern Bekaa Valley.
Katz issued a warning saying any attempt by the terrorist organization to recover, re-establish or threaten will be met with relentless intensity.
Both Katz and the military have accused Hezbollah of trying to rebuild its military infrastructure and are calling on the Lebanese army to take action to disarm the group. According to the Israeli military, Hezbollah's attempts to rehabilitate are a direct violation of previously established understanding between Israel and Lebanon.
Now, in a related development, Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has reiterated that the country's commitment to disarm Hezbollah, this as Lebanon faces strong pressure from the United States.
The extension of the Lebanese state's authority over all its territory, the removal of weapons from all armed groups, including Hezbollah, and their handover to the Lebanese army.
Now, this comes after Hezbollah chief Sheikh Naim Qasim pushed back against increased U.S. pressure for the Iran-backed group to disarm. Sheikh Qasim said those who call for submitting arms are practically demanding they be delivered to Israel. We will not submit to Israel.
Those who call for submitting arms practically demand submitting them to Israel. The US says, remove the missiles and remove the drones and surrender everything and surrender the medium weapons and light weapons, but only after a period of time. We will not submit to Israel more than that. I want to tell you that those who call for disarmament on a domestic, global or Arab level serve the Israeli project, whatever his name, whatever his title, whatever his claim.
Folks, in our lives, the life of our nation, there are moments so stark that they divide all that came before from everything that followed. Moments that force us to confront hard truths about ourselves, our institutions, and democracy itself. We see in the laws, the law firms, bowing to pressure, bending to bullies, instead of staying rooted in justice and the law, including some of the largest newspapers in America. We see the apparent glee some of our politicians express. That's while watching immigrants who are in this country legally, torn from the arms of their family, dragged away in handcuffs from the only home they've ever known. Look, folks, we can't sugarcoat this. These are dark days, but you're all here for the same reason. It's because our future is literally on the line.
King Mohammed VI, accompanied by Crown Prince Moulay El Hassan and Prince Moulay Rashid, led the oath-taking ceremony for graduating officers at the Royal Palace in Tetuan on Wednesday. The monarch honored this year's class by naming it after Princess Lala Latifa, paying tribute to Moroccan mothers and their role in shaping the nation's values. The ceremony featured the national anthem, a flag salute, and the King's inspection of troops. Graduates of Morocco's elite military academies, including the Royal Military, Air and Naval Academies, took their oath alongside promoted non-commissioned officers. The event highlighted the monarchy's enduring connection with the armed forces and its commitment to developing Morocco's next generation of military leaders.
Thank you, Senator Sheehy. Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do want to thank all of you for your willingness to serve and all the families behind you, supporting you. They often are serving as well. Maybe sometimes those jobs are even harder than what you're getting ready to do. So thank you to everybody here. I want to get a commitment from all the nominees here, if confirmed, to come on up to Alaska to see the what Billy Mitchell, the father of the U.S. Air Force, called the most strategic place in the world. We are home to 3 pillars of America's military might. We're the cornerstone of missile defense. We are the hub of air combat power for the Arctic and Asia Pacific, with over 100 fifth-generation fighters in Alaska, and we are the platform for expeditionary forces like the 11th Airborne Division of the U.S. Army, go anywhere in the world in a moment's notice. So can I get a commitment from all of you to come on up to Alaska?
Senator, yes. Gladly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be in the summer when the salmon are running like right now. You can be in the winter when it's 40 below zero and you go to Fort Greely and see our missile defenses. Is that all right? The Russians and Chinese like to come to Alaska. We had another Russian incursion in our ADIZ last week where our military scrambled F-22s and F-35s and F-16s to go intercept the Russians. They're up there all the time. So are the Chinese. They're doing joint strategic bomber and Navy ops, and a lot of times our media and military, well, our military is great on this, but a lot of times nobody down here even knows what's going on in Alaska. So it's a busy place with our frontline adversaries taking a lot of interest because of our strategic location and the buildup of our military forces. I wanted to switch to another topic. In Alaska, particularly with regard to the Army and the Air Force, but all our forces, we've had a spate of active duty suicides, particularly the Army. Very, very high spikes in suicides. And I want to get your thoughts. Some of you would be, Mr. Coleman, you'll be very focused on this issue. Some of you on the General Counsel side, Mr. Denton, maybe not so much, but it's a really big issue that impacts all the forces and, of course, families. And I just want to get a sense from any of you, if you have thoughts on how to address that, how to focus it. My view has always been, you know, you get units that train hard, that know what their mission is. Those kind of challenges often subside. But there are other aspects to it. But it's a big deal, and I try to keep an eye on it, not just for Alaska troops, but all of our military troops. So maybe, Mr. Coleman, I can start with you if there's any thoughts, and others, too, if you're thinking about this.
Senator, thank you for the question. And suicide is a scourge for both active duty and veterans. It's been persistent, and we've had a hard time making headway. You know, the numbers over the past 10 years have unfortunately stayed pretty persistent. I think there are some emerging efforts on the civilian side that are showing some good promise. I went to an event in February where a new approach was being used by someone who's been in the space for a while. So if confirmed, I look forward to understanding what the current state of the programmatic efforts are. I know this committee has been committed to that through things like the Brandon Act and others, and then figure out what's working with groups like the VA and other nonprofits to see what we could augment the already existing work in. And I'll also emphasize, I think it's to your point, Senator, as well, meaning and purpose goes a long way. It does. And if we can infuse meaning and purpose in what all of our sailors and Marines and even civilians are doing, That's a first step. It's not the only step, but it's an important first step.
Good. Any other thoughts on this topic? Let me turn to one final topic. It's the Small Business 8A contracting program. We have companies in Alaska that have done a very good job on that, and the report cards they keep coming back are for the DoD. It makes it more efficient, more lethal. This program, we think, has worked really well to help underserved communities in my state get a chance at business with the federal government, but also it's made the Pentagon a lot more efficient and lethal. There's elements of that program that provide flexibility for the Department of Defense to pursue contracts in a way that often don't exist with other federal contracts because they're very burdensome and full of red tape. Can I get your commitment? And I'll ask in the queue for more details to be a strong supporter of that program as it regards to the small businesses, 8A contracting, and the Pentagon. Can I get everybody's commitment on that? Go ahead. You need to say yes.
Senator, yes.
Yes, Senator.
Yes.
Yes, Senator.
Yes, Senator.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This just in, it's in Southern Virginia, we're getting word of a horrific attack. A city council member was set on fire inside of his office of where a local this is, am I reading this right?
So yeah, he works at a local magazine.
Yeah, he's at a local magazine. That's the office where this happened. Mm-hmm. Okay. And where he works. The 38-year-old Lee Vogler is a city councilman in Danville, Virginia, 2 hours south of Roanoke. Police say the suspect entered into the victim's office and then doused him with flammable liquid. The victim and the suspect then exited the building, where the suspect then set the victim on fire. Just horrific details we're learning. And right now, the extent of Vogler's injuries are unknown, and the suspect is in custody. Trace, it looks like the first phone calls came into police around 11:30 a.m., and they were dispatched to the scene there and told of a male set on fire. He's been airlifted to a regional medical facility for treatment. And the full extent of his injuries is still not known at this time.
Well, in a groundbreaking medical discovery, researchers in Karnataka have identified a blood group antigen in a 38-year-old woman from Karnataka's Kolar district. Initially classified as ORH positive, which is the most common blood type, her blood was found to be incompatible with all available O positive donors during routine pre-surgery testing. This rare finding prompted further tests at the Rotary Bangalore TTK Blood Centre and later at the International Blood Group Reference Lab in the UK. After nearly a year of detailed analysis, scientists confirmed the existence of a new antigen within the Chroma blood group system named CRIB and recognized its origin from India. This makes the woman the first person in the world identified with this unique blood group. The discovery has major implications for transfusion medicine. It will further improve safety and compatibility for patients with rare blood types. To support people with rare blood groups, a new rare donor registry has been established in Bangalore, aiming to improve emergency care and organ transplant outcome worldwide.
Now, the U.S. East Coast is witnessing heavy rain, flash flooding that have inundated roads, halted trains, and they've grounded flight operations from Philadelphia to New York City. Rising waters prompted emergency rescue across several states. Drivers were caught off guard and were trapped in high water on major highways. In Long Island, some commuters had to be evacuated by firefighters after trains stalled in rising floodwaters. Commuter rail service on Long Island and in New Jersey were either severely delayed or completely suspended. In Manhattan, water poured onto the platforms of Grand Central Station and across the region's busiest airports. JFK, LaGuardia, Newark, and Philadelphia, dozens of flights were delayed or cancelled. Amtrak also reported several halts between Philadelphia and Wilmington, Delaware, citing high water levels over the tracks. By late Thursday, emergency declarations were issued in both New York and New Jersey. Officials said there was a significant risk of flash flooding, landslides, and even rock slides in parts of the region. In Pennsylvania, the city of Reading experienced sudden street flooding after more than 3 inches of rain fell in under an hour. Videos on social media showed cars nearly submerged and torrents of water flowing through the city streets. Rainfall rates of 2 inches per hour are expected to continue through Friday morning. Some areas may see as much as 6 inches in total accumulation. Several thunderstorm watches remain in effect across parts of the East Coast, with continued threats of flash flooding in low-lying areas, underpasses and along poorly drained roads.
He's stuck.
In El Paso County tonight, federal agents are searching for 2 people they say are in the country without authorization after ICE agents shot into their car. This happened in Black Forest this afternoon, northeast of Colorado Springs. ICE says the driver of the car tried to ram the agent with the car. That's when ICE agent fired 3 shots into the car. So far, no reports of any injuries. ICE says the 2 people got away and abandoned that car. Federal agents are still looking for them tonight.